when I came to 12 Steps, I never felt more at home.
Yeah, nice.
I was like, I remember hearing some people share, and in my egotistical head, I'm like, somebody must have told all these people in this room my story before I got here, because like they're sharing my story.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, how do they know what I've been through?
Yeah.
And then it's like you come to realize, like, no, like we've all been through this.
Sure.
And that's why we're here. And I had finally found a home.
Take a better scene. It's what we're doing. Come and check it out. It's what we're all about. 561 Music.
Welcome to 561 Music. My name's Ben.
And I'm Hector.
How are you feeling? I didn't clap. Was it off-putting?
Yeah, it threw me off a little bit. It's fine. It's fine.
I'll do one now. There we go.
I don't know why you without the clap is off-putting. Is that what we're saying? I don't know.
So.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I got really weird fast.
So, Killbillies didn't play this weekend, which was quite unusual. Threw us for a loop a little bit.
Yeah, Killbillies isn't playing this weekend, which is really unusual. It's throwing me off for a loop.
I know. Yeah.
I just
We'll get
I'm lost without it, man.
I feel you, man.
I feel like my calendar's broken. I keep looking and I don't see Killbillies, and I keep thinking something's wrong.
I know. In any other situation, I would have been really unnerved by it. But I got to tell you, after all the festival stuff, it's nice to it's nice to have a bit of a change of pace. I got the post-festival blues hard. Like the couple of days afterwards, I was like, God, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I call it a festival hangover, man. Like we just got to the end of it, and now I'm just like, oh, now what?
Yeah, totally. No, I definitely felt like that. But I actually was going to text you, but I suddenly realized it was like 3 a.m. I'm like, I'm not going to tell him I have post-festival blues in the middle of the night. I'll leave him alone.
I mean, in all fairness, I was probably awake. Probably for a lot of the same reasons.
Yeah, totally. It was good times, though. And if you are curious about the 561 Music Festival, last week's episode is all about that, so you can check it out on our feed. We have Jordan Myers with us today. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So I think the best way to do this is to let you explain in your own words what you're doing here and what you have come to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. I got approached by our mutual friend, Ricky. He just said, my buddy's got this podcast and it's all about music. And, but sometimes they talk about mental health, and he knows that those are two things I'm very passionate about. And he was like, I'm wondering if you'd like to do it. And I was just like, yeah, sure, man. And he's like, all right, it's going to be on this day in this place. And I was just like, sure. Don't know who you guys are. Don't know anything about it. Don't know, haven't heard the show. I'm excited to like get to know it more.
Yeah, man.
And I didn't even know what it was called. He was just like, here's the address. And I'm like, okay.
The weird thing about it is that the show is called the same thing as the address.
Yeah.
It's called 561 Music. It's at 561 Music in the 561 area.
Yep.
It's very literal.
So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a musician. I was a professionally touring musician for a period of time, and now it's mostly just a hobby for me and for fun. And now very passionate about mental health and kind of bridging the gap between the music and entertainment industry and mental health, and trying to provide more resources to people that are in the music and entertainment space that struggle with mental health, which I mean,
there's
I feel
a lot
like
of
we
us.
all do,
Yeah, for sure. Do you think we could kind of start from the beginning? I don't know. I imagine as someone who's in this sphere, kind of talking a little bit about your struggles with it is something you're used to, but if you're not comfortable with it, I understand.
No, 100%. Like that's the whole point of doing what I do, is to talk openly about my mental health struggles, and in hopes that other people can identify and then maybe open up about theirs, because that's kind of the whole point of it, is to break the stigma, not have mental health be such a taboo topic, and that everybody's afraid to talk about. And
absolutely, I didn't want to assume though, but my question was going to be, what's your story?
Man. You know, I'm 30. I'll be 34 in like a week or two. And for being 34 years old, I've just got a lot of lived experience, man.
Sure.
So I think I'll have to give like the 30,000 foot view of my life and my story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this would be like the longest episode ever. You know, I'm born and raised down here in South Florida, and you know, in the 561. You know, but I'm very well traveled. Actually grew up playing basketball. That was like my thing. Had a pipe dream of becoming a NBA basketball star, and then as I got a little bit older and getting into high school, you know, I realized like a short, fat, white Jewish kid from Boca Raton, Florida is probably never going to make it to the NBA, or, you know.
Never say never. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I played basketball my whole life. And then, you know, freshman year of high school, I was playing ball and riding my bike home from school one day, and I was one of those kids. I was always an emo kid too, right? Like always listened to like, you know, post-hardcore music and punk or pop punk and stuff like that. So I was the kid that was wearing like the American Apparel hoodie to school every day, even in, you know, in South Florida. Yeah. And
there's a lot of those. I think Gavin was one of those, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Hector's son. Me, I was one.
And so you know, I took my sweater off and I had it kind of hanging on my handlebars, and the sleeve, you know, kind of flipped over and got caught in the spokes and flipped the bike over, and I broke my ankle, and that was kind of it for basketball for me for a while, and I got real depressed about it and didn't know what was next for me. Didn't really think I wanted to play basketball anymore after that. And this kid, Daniel Dubsky, his name was, he was in my math class, and he knew I was really into music. And he said, "Hey man, you know, we could use somebody else in the drum line in school. Come join." You know? I was like, I've never played an instrument before in my life, you know, like
that's when it started. Wow.
Yeah. Cool. I'm not sure how good I'll be. And he said, well, we'll teach you, man. Like it won't be that hard to pick up. And, started going to marching band practice, and sure enough, I sucked. Like I was really bad. But, you know, Daniel and another good guy, David, that was there, and this other kid, Alex, and, you know, these guys just, were helpful and taught me some stuff, and you know, helpful in different kinds of ways, right? Helpful in actually teaching me stuff, or helpful in making fun of me and making me feel like the world's worst musician in the world, which kind of just like made me want to get better, you know?
Well, drumlines and marching bands, they do exist in the UK, but not in the same way at all. And I feel like it's a really, you know, that's why there was a third wave of ska punk, you know what I mean? It's like, that's where people learn a lot at that age in those things. And I just think it's a great institution, you know?
Yeah,
fantastic.
Almost everybody that like started a band outside of marching band or like jazz band in school, it was a ska band, of course, you know? Especially in the era that I was growing up. And so, yeah, funny enough, you know, like, I picked it up pretty quickly, got a drum set, and like started practicing for hours a day in my garage. And the first band that I played in was a ska band, and we were called the Punctuations.
Yeah.
Typical ska name, I think.
I'm just hoping that one song or one record was a pun with ska in the name.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, to be honest with you, I've done way too many drugs since to remember the name of any of the songs that we had. But I hope you could look it up. You know, I think all the songs were on MySpace, and I mean that's like the saddest thing about MySpace being gone.
You know what?
Still there.
Well, 2 million songs disappeared. 2 million songs disappeared. And my songs were among those, which I was gutted. There's some stuff that I wrote a song about my little brother that I can't even really remember how it goes anymore, but I remember it was good. So annoying. And I lost. There's so much. They were doing this data transfer. You know about it, don't you? Yeah. They were doing this data transfer, and between servers, and like a huge chunk of their catalog disappeared. Sucks.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I haven't checked in a while, but I mean, if you're saying that some of the stuff is still there,
because I just had a conversation with somebody the other day because somebody said something about MySpace and I forget who I was talking to, but they said something about MySpace, and I said, yeah, you know, it's a shame that it's all gone. And they said, no, it's not all gone. And then they told me about the data dump or whatever, and how some stuff is gone, but like everything else is still. And so I said, is MySpace still a thing? And they said, well,
I can't wait to go home and check.
It's not still a thing, but it's still active. Like it's there.
Yeah. There's a website that you can go on that's like an archive of a lot of that stuff, but my stuff isn't even on the archive. My stuff is just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember PhotoBucket?
Yeah.
You use PhotoBucket?
Yep.
I would give anything to be able to log into my old PhotoBucket,
right,
just to see those pictures and videos. But
yeah,
anyway, not getting off topic here. But,
it's all right. It's a long form. We can get off topic.
First band was the Punctuations, and you know, we were talking about our friend Ricky. You know, getting me connected to you guys and getting on this podcast. And I was sharing a little bit when I first got here about how Ricky actually stole my job in that band as the drummer. And I was definitely resentful at him for it, but also one of those things that kind of just added fuel to the fire that was set within me to like try to become a very good drummer and talented drummer. And
that you know, sometimes those setbacks are they can be the thing that the springboard, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so you know, I'll fast forward a little bit. After high school, I ended up going up to Tallahassee to college up there, and was like going to be studying to become like a music teacher, and was taking music classes, and school's not for me, man. You know, I went up there, I lasted maybe a semester or two, but really I just like, I loved being like on my own, not at my parents' house for the first time. Was a little dangerous for me because I started discovering a lot of things. You know, at high school, I dabbled with smoking weed a little bit here and there, and drinking on the weekends, you know, hanging outside the gas station waiting for some like cool, you know, 20-something-year-old to come by. You know, hey man, here's like you know, $20, please give me a 6-pack or something, you know. And that's how we did it back then. And going up to school, everyone's drinking, partying, you know, this ADD medication that I was put on when I was 8 years old. It turns out if you take a bunch of it, you stay up for days at a time and just fucking party. And it turns out if you sniff it, it works a lot better too. And so, you know, I just started really hitting it hard, taking different drugs and experimenting with all that sort of stuff. And didn't really care about school so much anymore. And there was this band from Naples, Florida. They were called Vega Under Fire. And I had played some local shows with them at, man, what was that place called in Pompano? Solid Sound Studios. Remember Solid Sound? Were you around for Solid Sound?
It might be before my time.
Sure. It's a place called Solid Sound Studios. And
do you remember Solid Sound Studios?
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
It was like a rehearsal space in Pompano.
Right.
It's very interesting. Husband and wife ran it. I'm pretty sure it was also like a front. Like I'm pretty sure they were selling weed.
Gotcha.
But they were running shows. You know, they had one of the bigger rehearsal rooms. They were running shows out of it.
Cool.
Completely illegal. Like we'd fit like 150 fucking kids in there, and I'm sure their legal capacity was probably like 20. You know, but so much fun, and that's what we did as kids. And anyway, this band from Naples, they had played there a couple times. I think maybe we played a show with them once or twice, and I was friendly with them. And they came up to Tallahassee to play a show, and they ended up crashing at my house afterwards. And they told me they were going out on tour with this band called Mayday Parade. And Mayday Parade's from Tallahassee, and, you know, fairly large pop punk band at the time that was doing like the Warped Tour, you know, circuits and stuff like that. And they asked me if I wanted to come out on tour with them and fucking sell t-shirts. And I was like, sure. And they're like, cool, we could give you about $5 a day.
Hey, man.
And I was like,
at a certain time in my life, you know, that seemed like the best idea in the entire world.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy, Adam, he's kind of more of a tour manager now, but you know, he still just loves, his whole thing is like being a merch guy. Still just loves it. So his whole life is just, but I mean, admittedly, he is friends with like all these super cool people, and a guy, his life is just like awesome. He's like, you know, this sort of traveling, sort of awesome punk rock hobo, and he has a great time with it. But like, but nothing. Selling merch is underrated.
I loved it, man.
Yeah, totally.
I always had a great time with it.
Yeah.
I just get a thrill out of selling in general. You know what I mean? I like being a salesman. I used to make jokes all the time. Like I was kind of maybe a horrible person too. Like, you know, if we ran out of a certain size, like I'll never forget this. And, you know, forgive me, please don't cancel me for sharing this story of when I was younger. But this girl came up to me and she needed like an extra large, and we only had like a medium or something. And I sold that medium shirt to that girl and told her to just hang it on her wall and use it as motivation to be able to wear it at some point soon.
So there's someone sold me a small t-shirt the other day and just said, yeah, just cut the arms off, it will be fine. And in the moment, I just fell for it. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm, you know, if you're a good, some people could just sell
the shirt.
It is not the shirt.
Okay.
Some people can, you know, sell like, you know, snow to the Inuits. Some people can do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just
snow to Eskimos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard somebody say the other day, you know, people pride themselves on being able to say something like that. Like, I could sell snow to an Eskimo, but it's like, Eskimos don't need snow. You know, why don't you try selling something to somebody that they actually need? Right. That hit me. I was like, wow, I like that, you know?
Yeah.
I've always been proud to be like a good salesperson and whatever I do, but I liked hearing that. I was like,
absolutely.
yeah, you know?
Well, you know, that it's not always, it's a veil. I wouldn't say that it's a compliment when you say that about someone. It's more of it's a bit backhanded, you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I go out on this tour, and I had never been on tour before. I'm from Florida, man. I bring a pair of flip-flops, and like a couple pairs of shorts,
sure,
and whatever. This was December 2009, and we were in like Iowa.
Yeah, that must have been an eye opener.
Oh man, there's like 3 feet of snow. We're in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm just walking with flip flops and shorts. And so I
straight to the thrift store.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we went to a Walmart and I got a pair of sneakers or something. But more or less, instead of actually just going and buying clothing that I needed, I just drank my fucking face off to stay warm. Sure. You know.
Yeah, that works too.
And I'm hanging out with these guys that like I grew up kind of idolizing, you know, and that just became a theme for me over the next few years, which was like watching my heroes turn human in front of me, just like hanging out with all these guys I've idolized since I was, you know, really not that much, you know, that long ago at that point, because I was 18 and. You know, my early teenage years, I guess I should say. And, you know, guys that I went to go see on Warped Tour. I think my first Warped Tour was 2003. I went with my sister. It was the first show that, like, I went to without mom and dad, you know?
Yeah.
And completely obsessed. Never missed one from that moment on. You know, 2003, went to them. 2010 now, right? So 2009 in December, that was the first tour I went out on, and fantastic time, connected with these guys, and then MySpace, going back to it.
Yeah.
At that time, every band that was either on the Warped Tour or something like that, you know, on their page, they had like an email address for their manager.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find a job for the Warped Tour that summer. And so I just started emailing all these managers for like every band that was going out that summer.
Hey, I like that, man. Shows a bit of like, so what's the word?
Tenacity.
Tenacity. Chutzpah. That's what I was looking for.
Chutzpah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. I emailed pretty much everyone. I got hit back by a few. But one that really stood out for me was, you know, I grew up loving a band called The Early November from New Jersey. And Ace Enders, he had his side project at the time, Ace Enders and a million different people. They were going out on Warped, or maybe it was I Can Make a Mess Like Nobody's Business. He had a couple side projects. And And yeah, his manager hit me up and said, you know, we need somebody to be like a photographer. I'm like, I guess I could take pictures, you know. I'm not a photographer. You know, I'll buy a camera or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll fucking figure it out.
Now.
Yeah. Totally. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I went out that summer. That was 2010, and that was like my first real like major tour. You know,
Wicked.
What a fucking experience, man. 18 years old. Or maybe I just turned 19. I take the bus. So Mayday Parade was on that tour too, and like I said, they're from Tallahassee, so they were on a bus from Tallahassee to California, where the start of Warped Tour was. So I took that 3-day trip with them on the bus out to California, and such a cool experience, man. And we get there, and like it's production day. I get my tour pass. Everybody gets a free pair of Vans shoes. I got to pick out my shoes. Start meeting like all these people, start seeing all the bands, like I said, that I grew up idolizing. I'm like, there's fucking Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio. I'm like, holy shit, dude.
If I could get one thing back from the period of time when I was doing a lot of touring, it's that it's free Vans.
Yeah.
I'm killed for that now.
Free anything, you know? Just all the free merch, too. Being on the tour and just walking around to all the merch booths of the guys you just smoked weed with and became friends with at the Warped Tour barbecue, and you're like, yo, let me get a free shirt.
Podcast. It's worth a shot.
Vans, are you listening? Size 11. Comfy Kush. I like the Comfy Kush. I'm old now. No, but what a cool time, man. And so I was working for Ace on that tour, and it was such an interesting experience. And you know, I'll say that tour is what ended up starting to break me in terms of like the substance abuse.
Sure.
That tour in particular, I was 19 years old. I was like somewhat tour managing Ace. I was just kind of wearing a lot of hats, right? And so in the morning, I would go to production in the morning to get our set times for the day, find out where we're setting up merch, do all this stuff. And production would hand you 2 cases of beer and 1 case of water. And the water that they hand you is Monster tour water. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Monster was like the major sponsor of the Warped Tour. And the water that the bands would get and the crew would get on that tour, it came in a can, a Monster can. And it looked like the standard, like black can with the green M Monster, right? But on the very bottom, it said tour water. Right. And so I was like, what a genius marketing move by Monster. Because all these bands and guys on this tour are walking around drinking Monster tour water.
Yeah.
But all the kids that are going to the shows, they're like, oh, these guys drink Monster. I'm going to drink Monster too.
That's funny.
Fucking genius marketing.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
You know, Monster, if you're listening.
The podcast should use a sponsor. We're just going to get everybody to sponsor.
Monster. That's gasoline. But 2 cases of beer and 1 case of water. So what the fuck do you think I'm drinking more, you know?
Right.
Again, you know, it's a long day on that tour. So I'd wake up and like sniff a couple Adderalls, drink a couple beers, set up the merch, go to the stage, set up the drums and guitar, check everything, make sure everything's good to go. Check in on merch, be running around, you know, just doing a bunch of stuff all day, and then the day ends up wrapping up. There's like a barbecue every night at the end of the night. There's like an open bar for like tips only, you know, and so just more drinking. And then you get on the bus and you wake up 6 hours later in another city, and you wake up and do it all again. It's like 6 a.m. to like 1 a.m. And that's your life for 2.5 months. And
you know, while you've got the stamina for it, it's kind of fun, but it's just like it starts to wear. The habits just get ingrained and to the point where it's like, you know, with the amount of drinking you can do, you know, and it's just like that's how I became an alcoholic too. I mean, I was already kind of one, I think, but like that's what really that's what really ingrained it.
Sure.
You know? Like,
I get it, man. And like, again, I'm hanging out with all these guys that I just so badly want to fit in.
Yeah.
I want them to think I'm cool. I want them to think I'm one of them and part of. Chameleonize myself. And I'm drinking way more than I normally would or ever have before, right? Just so I can fit in.
Yeah.
These guys know it too, man. Like, I couldn't hold my fucking alcohol like them, you know? Like, I would get drunk pretty quick. There was like one night where I was just trashed, and I'm like, basically like leaned up against the fucking trailer tire, and these guys come over and they're like, "You all right?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm just, you know, I got the spins." And they just start going, "Whiskey, whiskey, whiskey," and I'm just like, yakking everywhere, man. It was awful, but I ran out of my Adderall pretty quick, and I needed something to stay up, and that's when I got introduced to cocaine. And when I first started using it, it was I went on like a 3 or 4 day bender of like no sleep, full blown psychosis, and kind of losing my mind a little bit, hearing voices, like, you know, going nuts, and asking people like what I could do. Like, I don't know how to sleep. Yeah. Like, please tell me, like, what should I take to go to sleep? And there was a guy on that tour that introduced me to opiates. He was like, sometimes these give you energy, but if you take enough of them, you'll fucking pass out. Sure. And so that's what I did. That was Percocets. And man, now I'm just like a fucking garbage pail. And it's like I've got my daily regiment of self-medication, you know, wake up, do a bump to like wake up quick. Maybe even drink a Monster simultaneously. You know, go and get the beer and water, drink a couple beers, set everything up, drink a couple more beers, play the show, you know, drink a couple more beers, do a little bit more coke, smoke a little weed, hang out at the barbecue at night, drink some liquor, take a couple Percocets, go to bed.
And the funny thing about that is, when you're doing it at the time, that doesn't seem like a lot at all. You just sort of think like, you know, that's maintaining. You know what I mean?
And that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah. So it's funny old world. And then, so what got you to the point where you decided to pack it all in?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you know, tolerances increase after time, right? And like, before I knew it, like, I'm using heroin, you know, like, it's not just like the Percocets anymore. Sure. It's like, I'm like, you know, using heroin and coke at the same time, you know, speedballing. And, when I decided to pack it all in, it's now, I've done this for, about 3 years where I've just been like pretty much all over the world. And, I don't remember much of it. Yeah. Xanax came into play too. I call those time machines where like I'll just like basically be in like a 4-day blackout where like in those 4 days I'm like living my life and doing the things I need to do. I just don't remember any of it. Yeah. And then like 4 days later I'm like, wait, what did we just do the last 4 days? Where are we right now? You know? Yeah, I had to pack it all in, man. I got fired from my last job that I was on tour and sent home, and that was like reality for me. Yeah. And I was pretty broken at that point, and like the pain was great enough with my mental health, you know, just feeling like pretty alone. And because when you tour that much too, I'm not sure how much you've toured. You said you've done your own stint, bit of touring.
And,
you know?
and the thing where I think you're leading is that, like, the group of friends you have spread out over a huge area, and you lose contact with the people at home. So you end up in this very strange situation. Yeah, like where like you have to be on tour to see your friends, basically. Yeah, and then when you're home, you just get this unbearable sort of like fear of missing out, feeling mixed with just loneliness because you don't know anyone who's around.
Literally, man.
Yeah.
Literally. You fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Not even like my family, you know, because when you're on tour, it's like you're also so busy, so you can't even like talk to people back home, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't really have anybody. And this is just lonely, man. And I decided, you know, this was it. And I don't want to get too much into this side of the story, but, you know, I made an attempt to be called home. Jeez. And obviously failed. Here I am, you know, to tell the tale. But after that, that's when like I got help. You know, I was like, okay, cool. I made it out of that. Clearly, I'm fucking here for a reason. Yeah. Not sure what that is yet, but it's not going to be doing this anymore. I can tell you that. Like I was done. And I got help, man. And then I started going to meetings and became obsessed with that. Just like you know, I was obsessed with drumming or with basketball. Then I was obsessed with drumming. Then obsessed with drugs and alcohol and drumming. And now I'm obsessed with recovery.
That's wonderful. Did it stick the first time, or did you have to have a couple of runs at it?
First time, dude.
Oh, me too. Well, you know, so far so good. Who knows? So
white chip, one white chip wonder, man. I grew up chameleonizing myself to all different sorts of people. In high school, I was friends with the jocks, the nerds, the skater kids, just like every different facet of people. And when I say friends, like, it was more like acquaintances. They all knew who I was, but like there was never like a core group of people that I really hung out with the most. It was just I spread it out because I didn't know who the fuck I was, or who I wanted to be, or what I wanted to do. Except for music, right? You know, but like, in terms of like fitting in somewhere, I never really quite felt like I fit in anywhere. So I tried to be a part of everything. When I came to like 12 steps, you know, I never felt more at home.
Yeah. Nice.
I was like, you know, I remember hearing some people share, and in my fucking egotistical head, I'm like, somebody must have told all these people in this room my story before I got here, because like they're sharing my story. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like, how do they know what I've been through? You know? Yeah. And then it's like, you come to realize like, no, like we've all been through this. Sure. And that's why we're here. And, I had finally found a home, and like I said, full blown obsession with recovery, and then wanting to help other people as well. Yeah.
Which is, you know, that's it's how you stay. So it's, you know, they say
I only get to keep what I have by giving it away.
Yeah, it's ultimately the best way to look after yourself is to look out for others. And, help
you
others.
Were just saying something the other day about serving or something, and then, and just
and it's something that you can't do too much of, because it's like helping others just. It puts you one step further removed from going down the wrong path yourself, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Service work.
Do you think that, because you were just talking about how, you know, you were obsessed with basketball, and then you were obsessed with, you know, music, and you were obsessed with the drugs, and then you became obsessed with recovery. Do you think that, because, you know, I do know a lot of people that have, an addictive personality, if you will.
Sure.
And I see them go down these different paths of like, you know, they find something and they focus on that, and then they find something else and they focus on that, and they find drugs and they focus on that. But do you think like the obsession with recovery has anything to do with that addictive personality kind 100%. Of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that gets talked about quite a lot as well, you know, and it's, and one of the things that people will say is like, you know, if you think about the amount of energy you put in to get to figuring out how to get high every day, you know what I mean? If you can redirect that, that's a lot of good energy to put into the world, right. You know what I mean?
But I guess the reason I'm asking is because if that's something that's, you know, if that addictive personality kind of gets redirected and you go into recovery and stuff, and then, you know, you're all about that now, where does the disconnect happen? In your opinion, I guess, where does the disconnect happen on somebody who does redirect and go into recovery, but either doesn't stay recovered very long or just fails or whatever? Do you think they're just, do you like,
so I've got some stuff to say about it, but it's I think you're the guest, so please talk on that.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a good topic, man. The way that I explain this to people, because you're totally right, like, where do people fall short, right? How, like, because you hear about it so often. You asked me, right, what did you have to go out at it a few times before you figured it out? You know what I mean? And that's most people's story, right? Most people don't get it the first time, and like, I work pretty like extensively in the behavioral health field now, and we'll get into that in a second, but like, a question that gets asked all the time is like, how do you measure a treatment center's success rate? Like, like, what's the percentage of success at this treatment center versus the other? And it's like, it's really hard to tell because, I always use this analogy. In middle school, I got great grades in math, like straight A's in math. And it's because I studied, I had a tutor, like I practiced algebra problems, right? That was 25 fucking years ago. If you gave me an algebra problem today, I couldn't do it, dude. Yeah. Because I haven't practiced math, right?
Yeah.
Same ideology, man. These people go to treatment or they go to recovery and 12 steps and things like that. And like, they gain access to all these different tools and like, healthier solutions other than drugs and alcohol to like combat their issues and their mental health, problems. And that's all it is, right? Yeah. Everybody that struggles with substance use has some kind of mental health disorder, whether it's situational or clinical, that leaves them to using drugs and alcohol for self-medication.
Yeah, I learned that. But when I went to rehab, I was like, oh, that's
why.
What rehab is.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's mental health treatment.
Yeah.
But for me, like, if you're not continuing to use those tools, if I don't continue to use those tools or these healthier solutions that I found, inevitably I'm going to fail. And the way that I usually explain it is usually I'll be out like with like a sponsee or something, right? I'm out at like a lunch or something, and we're sitting at like a diner. Howley's, usually, to be exact. You ever been to Howley's?
Yeah.
My favorite fucking place. Shout out to Howley's. I'll take the salt and the pepper, right? The salt is you, the pepper is drugs and alcohol. And I'm like, okay, on this table right now, there is nothing in between the salt and the pepper, correct? Right. Okay, but you open up your thing with your napkin with the knife and the fork and the spoon. All right, you put the spoon there. That's meetings, right? You take the knife. That's service work. You take the fork. That's sponsorship. You take the napkin itself. That's fucking praying, right? Like prayer, right? Like you take all these different things and put them now in between the salt and the pepper, and like you try to bring them together, and there's a lot of blockage there. They're not just going to connect that easily, right?
Yeah.
You start taking those things away. You stop going to meetings. You stop calling your sponsor and doing step work. You stop doing any kind of service work and helping one another. You stop praying. You stop doing all the shit that you learned, and there's nothing stopping the fucking salt and pepper from connecting, you know?
100%.
So kind of to go back to what you're asking, like these guys that, don't quite get it right away. It's like, most of the time they're not completely ready, and they've still kind of got like, they're dipping their toe in the water and trying to figure it out. You gotta kind of just fucking surrender and be all in and take all of, like, listen to everything that everybody's telling you to do and put that into action and start fucking creating that separation for the salt and the pepper,
You know what it is, Hector? It's, you have to relinquish control, which is, it is a hard thing to do.
Sure.
For some people, impossible,
Yeah, that's the truth, man. That's the truth. That's something I learned pretty early on in recovery and has always stuck with me. Somebody shared with me once, they said, the only thing you ever have any control over at any moment in time is right now, your 2 hands, your 2 feet, your mouth, your brain, your body, that is the only thing you have control over in this exact moment in time.
Yeah.
Whatever happened before this second of time and further in the past doesn't matter anymore. It can never be changed. Nothing else is really going to come from it. You can kind of learn from it and try to use that to shape what your future could become, and maybe try not to do the same things again. But there's no use in dwelling on it, and that's usually where depression comes from. Depression comes from dwelling on the past and thinking of coulda, shoulda, wouldas, right?
Yeah, sure.
You don't have control over that anymore, right? Then even in this present moment in time, I still only have control over myself. I don't control you. I don't control you. I don't control these microphones. I don't control these cameras. I don't control the weather outside, the cars on the road. I've got no fucking control over anything in this moment in time except for myself as well.
Yeah.
Right? And all of that, you guys, the cameras, the cars on the road, the weather outside, that's God.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that God is taking care of me, and whatever you guys might say, whatever happens out on the road, which God for fucking bid, you know, with everybody moving to South Florida now, like driving here is crazy. The weather outside, like whatever it is, I just have to believe that it's all set up for me in some way for success. And I have to find the success in all of it, even though sometimes things feel negative. I've hit every fucking red light and I'm late to work already. Well, maybe God is telling you that you don't need to be where you think you need to be when you think you need to be there. Yeah. Right? Maybe if you try to contest that and get there a little faster, you're going to end up in an accident. You're going to get pulled over. Like, you know, think about like 9/11, right? And like somebody that was late to going to the office that day.
Yeah.
Thank God they were, you know what I mean? And they're frustrated. They're probably mad. You know, the fucking train is delayed. I'm not getting to work on time, whatever. And then it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
If I got to work on time.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of stories like that came out of 9/11. And there was even one where somebody missed their flight, and it was the flight that went down in the field.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, just crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, man.
So what are you, I'm really glad you came on. It's something that we talk about on here, but we don't talk about enough. And Ricky did a great job in booking you. What are you currently involved in when it comes to, what are you currently involved in? What are you doing right now in terms of like music and recovery?
Sure. Yeah, man. So, like I was, you know, saying and expressing, like I dove in pretty quick, and like I really just wanted to be a part of this and finding recovery. And part of that is like kind of working in that field, you know. Yeah. And so like I started off in like a pretty entry level job working in treatment, where I was a behavioral health tech, which is basically like a fucking babysitter for the clients. Still probably today my favorite job I ever had.
And take people's blood pressure a lot.
Taking people's blood pressure, taking the clients to meetings, you know, essentially doubling as their therapist, because more often than not, the clients feel more drawn to talking to the techs than they do their own therapist, you know. And yeah, I mean, I loved it, man. I loved it. And I became friends with some of these guys and like really showed, like I had a year sober maybe at this point, and I was really showing them the ropes. And some of these guys are still my friends today. Some of them unfortunately passed away, you know, and that's just kind of how it is. My sponsor told me pretty early on, you better make sure that you have a suit. You're going to attend a lot of funerals, you know.
For sure, man.
And a lot of weddings, right? But so that was my first job. And then I kind of just worked my way into other facets of the treatment industry, working my way up, but at a time where treatment in South Florida was very unscrupulous.
Right.
There was a lot of bad actors. There was a lot of treatment centers that were committing insurance fraud and patient brokering, and kids were dying, and like they were just like flying
like the Wild West through there.
It really was. Yeah. Flying people from all over the country to Florida for treatment because they've got great insurance, and you know, making them piss in a cup every day and billing their insurance for it. And
and you know, let's not pretend that some of that still doesn't go on. You know,
absolutely does. Absolutely. You know, a lot of the fucking roaches and rats that did that shit down here back in the day, they all just scattered to other places. Now California is like the Wild West, and you know, New Jersey and wherever else. They all just kind of went other places, but it does absolutely still happen here. It's just a little more hush, you know, but people are a little more careful about it. But so that was all going on, and I found myself working at one of those places, and it was just unbeknownst to me. I didn't know what any of that stuff was.
Sure, yeah.
I'd like heard about it, but still didn't understand like what was wrong with it or what, you know, whatever. Because a lot of these people I had become friends with in the rooms were doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I like looked up to these people, you know?
Well, I feel like it becomes normalized. It's like anything. It's a culture. You know, you just sort of start thinking that that's what it is. You know?
Yeah. I was an intake coordinator at this place, and we were an outpatient center. And this girl came in, and I was doing her intake, and she was high.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling like this girl shouldn't be here. You know, she needs a higher level of care. She needs like a detox or a residential program or something like that. And I remember trying to finish her intake, and it was just impossible because she's nodding out in my fucking chair.
Yeah.
And I went to the clinical director and I said, hey, I don't think this girl should be here. Like, I think she needs a higher level of care. And that woman told me to stay in my lane and do my job, and that she would do hers and make that decision. And we ended up admitting that girl, and she AMA'd that night, which means she left against medical advice, you know, and she AMA'd that night and went and got high, and she overdosed and she died.
Yeah. It's terrible.
And her name was Shayna Cohen, and rest in peace, beautiful girl. And I came to work the next day finding that out, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
The wool was finally just pulled from over my eyes, and I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. But also now I'm just mad.
Yeah.
So mad. And I still have that anger within me, right? For not just that situation, just like all of it.
Yeah.
How many parents have lost their children? How many spouses have lost their loved one? Like, you know, or how many children have lost their parents? Like, man, just like, fuck, dude. How many friends have lost their friends? And I'm one of those friends. I've lost too many friends. And so I was just mad.
It's so ripe for predation, that world. That's the problem. You know what I mean? People, I mean, you know, that community is just it's easily manipulated and easily preyed upon, you know?
Absolutely.
It's a terrible shame.
I quit. I came home and I decided, I don't know why, what came over me and where this sparked, but I said, I'm going to share my story front to back from like my earliest childhood traumatic memory all the way through until where I'm at today and finding recovery. And I'm going to share this, and in hopes that other people read this and maybe they feel less alone. Maybe they feel heard just by hearing my story. Maybe they recognize that they're not going through whatever they are alone, right? Because there's other people that have struggled with just this very thing. And I'm going to do this and encourage other people to share their stories too. And let's try to like break the stigma, like I said, right? Let's create a little more community in this and make it less taboo to talk about mental health. And so I did. I shared my story. I took a picture holding a piece of cardboard that said, "It's okay to not be okay." And I posted it on Facebook and LinkedIn, and it just blew up. So many people messaging me from my childhood, people I don't even know messaging me, but like people are like, "I never knew you went through all of this. Thank you so much for being brave and sharing your story like this." And it did exactly what I was hoping it would. People just started saying, "I want to share my story." And I made it like a mission or like a project, if you will. And I called it Finding a Lost Voice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do something with this project, and I want to bring it out on the road. And the only thing I know how to do is like tour, right? Sure. I've done that before, and I think I'm ready to get back on tour, but just in this new facet.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to a handful of people that were a part of the Warped Tour. And I just said, I'm coming out on tour. I don't know what that looks like yet. I'm going to drive myself around. I'll rent a car and drive myself around the Warped Tour. If you could get me in every day, That's all I need, and I'll take care of the rest. And they were like, well, there's already a bunch of nonprofits that do this, and they're all out here. Why don't you partner up with one of them? And I was like, no, there's a bunch of T-shirt companies that say they're nonprofits and talk about mental health, and their T-shirts got some cool sayings on them, you know, like have hope or whatever the fuck, right? You know, and it's like, that's cool, but like all these companies do is sell T-shirts. I'm not sure what they even do with that money that is helpful to helping people with mental health. Yeah. But the anger within me was like, I want to go out around the country and actually find good resources for people, and I want to become like a resource center for people all over the country with any kind of mental health adversity, not just addiction, right?
Yeah.
Because it starts before the addiction.
Yeah.
You know, like I was sharing, like I've never met somebody that struggles with addiction that doesn't have a mental health disorder. I mean, there's nobody that's just sticking a fucking needle in their arms on the weekend and their life is just fucking peachy keen.
Right, exactly.
You know? And so
I mean, it's obvious when you think about it, isn't it? But when you really think about it, it's obvious.
Yeah.
It should be obvious.
It should be.
But it's not always.
No, well, I mean, it's one of those things that's right in front of you the whole time. And when you realize it, you go, oh, yeah, of course. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, it's, you know, a lot of things that have happened in my life have been like that. Realizations where you're this close to it, like your whole life staring you in the face, and the fact that and you just don't see it, and when you make that, something happens, you just make a realization, and you just go, oh, yeah, I don't know. A lot of the therapy that I've had and that people close to me have had has massively changed my perspective as a human being. It really has, and like and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And if it took me to have to kind of get to some of the dark places I got to get here now, so be it. I'm just, you know, I found it quite the journey. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
People ask me that all the time. Would you do something differently? Nah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, all those trials and tribulations and shit I went through, like, you know, I'm grateful for them because, like, I love my life today and what I'm able to do for people today, which ultimately is like helping myself, you know. And like you were sharing, you know, you only get to keep what you have by giving it away. I only get to stay on my winning streak by giving somebody else their winning streak. And so I go out on this fucking Warped Tour in 2017, man. Like I was sharing, you know, before we started the pod, rented an SUV, threw a baby mattress in the back seat, and I drove myself around the country for 2.5 months and met a lot of amazing people on that tour. A couple of bands that I got friendly with.
When was this?
2017.
Right.
Gracious. There's a band called Movements.
Yeah.
From California. They got this song. It's called 19. And
the
lyrics in this song, and I heard it before I went out on this tour. Didn't know these guys at all, but the lyrics, it's like a spoken word part. He says, "Someday I hope to make it clear to you that success is not determined by leather-bound books and ink on paper, but rather the heartbreak that I have found, or the passion that I have found out of heartbreak and anger. I know that happiness is stability, but stability is not a desk job, and I refuse to sacrifice my aspirations for an income and security. What the hell is security?" And I just rewind, listen again, rewind, listen again. I'm just like, fuck yeah, dude. And it just fell in line with what I was going through at the moment with the job, and like, fuck this piece of shit job and these fucking piece of shit people who are not actually helping people. You know, the passion that I have found out of heartbreak and anger. I've lost so many friends and I'm fucking angry about it. We just lost this beautiful little girl that I didn't even know, and I'm angry about it. And I got to do something about this, man. And I go out on this tour, and that band was on the tour. And I ended up meeting the singer of that band. His name's Patrick. And I shared with him this story, and he was just like, man, like, our stage is your stage. Like, you get on stage and you talk about your mental health story. Like, we'll give you like 5 minutes before we go on every day.
Oh, that's amazing.
And like, you know, they were a smaller band on that tour that year. Like, they were kind of just starting out. And like their crowd grew bigger and bigger, like as the summer went on and stuff. But, you know, it was them, and there was this other band called Our Last Night. they're like a very big band now. They do a lot of covers on YouTube and stuff like that.
Right.
That band's got an awesome story, man. They were around for so long. They were so young when they first started and got signed and stuff. And like, it was like always just like they were like the opening band always. Yeah. And it was just like you were just hoping, waiting for them to like get that break, you know, the record that like does it for them and like gives them the headlining tour. And it just like wasn't happening. It's all the talent in the world. And then like they just decided to go for it in a different direction and start doing these like hardcore covers of like pop songs.
Yeah, sick.
It fucking changed their entire career, and now they're huge.
Yeah, nice.
Massive fucking band.
That's so cool.
It's amazing. And those guys were on that tour, and I had toured with them, you know, in my active addiction days as well, and we were friendly then. And they also gave me their stage, man. Let me come out on stage. They have this song called Sunrise. There's lyrics in that song. It says, "I won't go to my grave until a difference is made. You can make it to the sunrise." And,
love it.
You know, so I would like come out on stage right before they played that song, and I would basically introduce the song for them by ending my, you know, my story by saying, "I won't go to my grave until a difference is made. You can make it to the sunrise." Everyone erupt, you know, knowing that that song's coming on.
Yeah, cool.
And people just started sharing their stories with me left and right, connecting with so many people, not just people that went to the shows, but like also bands and crew.
Yeah.
And I found myself like being a part of running meetings for the bands and crew.
Yeah.
AA or
awesome.
meditation meetings, you know, so instead of like doing these fucking barbecues that I was used to doing in my adolescence or, you know, not adolescence, but younger years of touring and when I was getting all fucked up and looking forward to drinking at the barbecues, now it's like when the show's over, I'm the guy running the meeting for the guys that don't want to be doing that shit. I'm the guy that's doing a meditation for the guys that don't want to be doing that shit or girls that don't want to be doing that shit. And I just started connecting with these people. And so like half of my day was spent in every one of these cities looking up mental health resources, whether it was like a university with a psychology program, like a state funded mental health hospital, private programs, like, you know, just psychologists, like whatever I could find within like a 20, 30 mile radius of the fairgrounds. And I would go and meet with these people, connect with them, get like their information and like exchange information with them, learn about their program, vet them out to make sure they weren't full of shit.
Oasis Root Carver Bar is in Seagrape Square on Indian Town Road, and it is a carver bar. If you don't know anything about carver, it's a Polynesian root that you grind up and you mix with water, and it has been in Polynesia for potentially thousands of years. It's an old thing that they used for kind of ceremonial and also sort of leisure purposes. It's meant to be something where, you know, that brings people together. You all take a shell of carver and chink them together and say bula and have it together like that. It's meant to be something to bring people together. It has a kind of an effect, which is, I guess, a kind of a slightly warming effect. It just kind of makes you feel nice. It's not particularly intoxicating. It's not like drinking alcohol. So the atmosphere in a carver bar is sort of like a cross between a regular bar and a coffee house. It's pretty chill in there. You get all sorts of different types of carver bars. Some of them are more like a club, you know, there's sort of like blacklight and EDM playing, and some of them are more like a cafe. This is one of the cafe type of ones. It's super chill in there. If you're looking for somewhere to, I don't know, maybe go and do some work on your laptop or go and have a chat with friends, it's perfect for that kind of thing. There's a foosball table in there if that's your jam, or baby-foot as they call it in France. Yeah, Jim, the owner, is a really cool guy, and he has very kindly sponsored our podcast, so thank you very much for that, Jim. They also do a poker night in there, all sorts of things going on at Oasis Root.
Welcome to 561 Music. We have some very exciting news. You may have noticed that the podcast is being hosted from a different place. That place is the 561 Music School and Studio. Justin Hucker has changed the name of his school from Live Music Community to 561 Music School and Studio. We have joined forces and now everything has the same name. The podcast, the festival and the school are now all under the umbrella of 561 Music. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you will know that every week in this spot, we used to do an ad for Live Music Community. Now, Live Music Community has become 561 Music. We are still on North Lake Boulevard, but we have moved to 524 North Lake Boulevard, Suite A, North Palm Beach, Florida. It is east from the old location, and boy oh boy is it an upgrade. We now have a studio that is far bigger and more advanced. Bigger lesson rooms and 3 big spaces for recording bands and practicing. We now offer more opportunities for recording your band and provide more practice space to hone your skills. The heart of 561 Music School and Studio is still tuition. We train both young people and adults one-on-one and also in groups to be real bands, teaching you how to play your instrument not only by yourself but with others as well. We help you learn to write and record a song, how to brand and market your band, how to design and produce merchandise, how to get shows, how to act at shows, how to perform, how to organize tours, how to reach out to labels, the ins and outs of protecting your intellectual property, and much more. 561 Music is a one-stop shop for all your music and performance-related needs. We are also set up to help you record music videos, how to manage social media, how to create content for social media, and everything that is required of a person trying to break into the music industry in 2025. Come by the studio at 524 North Lake Boulevard in North Palm Beach and check out the new digs. We are online at 561musicstudio.com. Fill out the form online and come for your free first trial lesson. We are open daily by appointment or just walk up and say hi. We're here most days of the week from 3 p.m. for walk-in inquiries. Come by. It's just so awesome, this new spot, and we're all incredibly excited to be here.
How close to the present day are we at this point?
Yeah, well, so this was, like I said, this was 2017. I did that tour, and that really launched my career in behavioral health.
It sounds like it.
And I came back home from that tour and like started getting job offers to do marketing for treatment centers, and like with a big fucking emphasis of fuck you, I'm not doing that, because that's like all the people that were getting in trouble, like that's what they were, so to speak, doing. And like, unbeknownst to me, again, like I didn't know that that is actually a real job, that like you can get paid to do, and you don't have to do the scumbag stuff like paying people to get high to go to treatment and paying them to go to treatment and like all the patient brokering shit that was going on. No, marketing is definitely, and business development is definitely a real job in behavioral health. And it turns out it's exactly what I was actually doing on the road, which is connecting with all these different providers all over the country and building relationships with them. And
when done earnestly, that's exactly what it is.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so, so I ended up getting a job at a place here doing business development, and like started learning that side of the industry a little bit more, meeting with other providers locally, setting up events and things like that. And it was a smaller place, good spot. The clinical director of that program, amazing woman, like brilliant woman, Dr. Rachel Needle, she saw what I was doing on the tours and stuff, and she loved what I was doing. And so she invested in me to turn Finding a Lost Voice not just into like a movement and a project, but into a foundation.
Nice.
And so she set everything up and had us become like a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And not really entirely sure what the mission was going to be yet at that point. And we were trying to like figure all that sort of stuff out. We were thinking like doing an educational platform for high schools and middle schools that we were going to call Party Ed, our spin-off of the DARE program, but more harm reduction related. It's basically like, hey, kids, we know you're going to fucking do drugs and alcohol. We're not going to tell you not to, because I know damn well when I was a teenager and people told me not to do something, that just made me want to do it more.
Sure. Yeah.
Like punk rock saves lives.
Sure. Yeah. And, so harm reduction, teaching the science and psychology behind what could happen if you experiment with drugs and alcohol, especially coupled with mental health disorders, things of that nature. And so we started building stuff like that, but all the while I'm still going out on these tours, sharing my story, connecting with people and resources all over the country. And I ended up moving on to work for a larger treatment organization called Banyan. And, my idea with them was to like, now we're getting into like 2018, 2019, to set up sober activations at music festivals and like offer like an area for people that were going to shows and music festivals that are either in recovery or interested in recovery or want like some kind of sober community and support while they're there at the show, so they don't feel like they have to use drugs and alcohol while they're at the show like so many others are doing there. And so I started doing that sort of stuff and branching it out a little more from, you know, just the Warped Tour, if you will, and Warped Tour ended up dying that year anyway, 2018. All of this was just, it was amazing, man. I grew like a large network on a national scale and made a name for myself and kind of bridging this gap between music and mental health. I started meeting with like record labels and like management companies. I was at this music business conference talking about mental health. And like, it was a 3-day conference. The first 2 days were so underwhelming. Nobody there gave a fuck about me, dude. They're like, oh, you're not an A&R rep or a manager or like an artist. Like, I don't care, you know? And then on the third day, there was like this award ceremony. They're giving out awards to people. And there was like an artist of the year. It was like Ed Sheeran or some shit like that. Or the Decades Award was Nile Rodgers. You know who Nile Rodgers is? Yeah. Genius. And then there was Philanthropist of the Year, and it was Scooter Braun. And Scooter Braun is like a, you know, world famous music manager, famous for discovering Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, like, and, you know, people like that, right? That's all I knew about the guy. He discovered Justin Bieber. And I see him sitting at the table across from me. I go over and shake his hand, introduce myself. He asked me what Finding a Lost Voice was. He saw it on my name tag. I shared with him what we do, and he was like, wow, like, that's incredible. I'm going to connect you to my team and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing, whatever. We exchanged info. I go and sit down. The awards go on, and his is like the last one, and this video reel comes up, and it's like, for raising millions of dollars for the terrorist attacks in Paris, you know, at an Ariana Grande concert, like, for, you know, running a foundation with his wife. They had a foundation called Fuck Cancer. I'm sure you might have even heard of it. Sure. This is a guy that owns that or runs that, you know, and it's just like all this amazing shit. And they're like, Scooter Braun, Philanthropist of the Year. And I'm just like, wow, dude, like, fuck yeah. This guy goes up on the stage. And like in the very beginning of his speech, he's like, thank you guys, thank you. And he's like, hey, listen, I don't remember your name because it was like my bar mitzvah up there and everybody was coming up to introduce themselves. But there was a guy and he like points at me and he's like, and he came up and he shared with me that he has a nonprofit organization that wants to help kids, you know, get off of drugs or understands the relation between drugs and mental health. And then people just started clapping, standing ovation. He didn't even get to finish. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you know, give him applause because this is his life's work. This is what he does on a daily basis. Like, he's the real hero. I just fucking like sell merch and throw parties and shows. Like, you know,
how wonderful is that?
Holy shit, man. Yeah, turn like the two like most underwhelming days of like a conference in my life into like the most overwhelming thing I've ever experienced. There was like a line of people after that waiting to hand me their business cards and say like, oh, we need more people like you in the industry. And I'm like, buddy, I'm pretty sure I tried talking to you yesterday and you told me to fuck off. Like, you know, but now that Scooter Braun is giving me a shout out on the stage, right? And so I connected with his team and ended up going out to LA and got introduced to so many more people. And that was really cool, man. Like, that was when I started doing some deeper level shit, like interventions for like artists in the music industry that struggle with substance use. And I see such an ugly side of it where like, some of these management companies don't even care that these people are killing themselves because it's almost like they want them to die. Yeah. Because when they die, they make even more money.
Exactly.
Like, you look at artists like Mac Miller, and it's like when Mac Miller passed away, like his record sales went through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's like perfect. They're just going to rake in all that fucking cash.
I mean, you know, I'm sure you're right, but I don't know any sort. I don't have any proof of anything like that. But you know, you think about it, it's obvious. Like, artists become sadly so much more attractive. Like the day after they die.
Well, Michael Jackson's like album sales or something were like double what they had ever been before after he passed away.
Yeah.
Like almost immediately after he passed away.
Yeah.
Everyone, man.
Yeah.
Chester Bennington, Linkin Park. I mean, I'm sure Nirvana, like
Absolutely.
Amy Winehouse, you know, like how many of these people, right? And those are just like the big names, you know, like, but there's other artists that they pass away and like they're immortalized essentially through their music, and people want to listen to them to feel that connection, I guess, after they pass away.
And it's a story then. It's like all sewn up. It's like it's you know, it's like truly commodified at that point.
Yeah.
Sure. Nothing else can alter it, you know. It's like that's when you become a commodity, like the day you die.
I started doing all this work, man, and it was like really getting to a place, and then wouldn't you know, I'm in LA. I just spoke at like this conference at WME. It's like a management talent agency, and I'm like getting on the bus from the car rental place to the airport to fly home, and like the news breaks that like the NBA is shutting down their season. Tom Hanks and his wife have COVID, and I'm just like, what's like the world is shutting down.
Sure.
Right. And I'm like, holy shit, is my plane gonna fly? You know, I made it home, and it was just like, dude, that was the day that the world shut down and COVID happened.
Yeah.
What a time, man. People are in complete panic, and I'm now a part of these groups of people in the music industry, not just artists, but like crew members. And dude, I've always been drawn. I was a roadie myself, so I've always been drawn to roadies, man, because we're the guys that get no fucking credit for anything. We're the guys that are, like you were talking about, we're on tour, right? And like we experience the same thing that the artist does in terms of like we lose everybody back home. We've got nobody, right? But at least like as an artist, you've got the fans. Yeah. You've got like some kind of like energy every day and like praise for what you're doing. As a roadie, like you've got the band, if they even are appreciative of you and like give you recognition. Yeah. And that's it, dude. So like, and these guys work their fucking asses off. Most of the time they don't really get paid that much money. It's not like there's health insurance involved, right? So when COVID happened, all these guys lost their jobs for the foreseeable future. Nobody knows when touring's going to happen, if it's ever going to happen again. Yeah. Everyone's in complete panic, and these guys are just guys and girls. I say guys a lot, I'm sorry, but these people are fucking struggling, man.
Sure.
And at this point, like Finding a Lost Voice, we have like a little bit of money. We had like gotten some grant funding for like the school projects idea and like all this stuff. And telehealth started blowing up at this time. Yeah. You know, BetterHelp, Talkspace. A buddy of mine started his own. It's called ReachLink. And I kind of just put it all together, and I was like, you know what? I got a little bit of money saved up. I could try to start setting up some fundraisers for this, but I'm going to start paying for people's therapy sessions in the music industry. These people that I'm in these groups with, they don't have any money. These guys are used to touring 11 and a half months out of the year. And that 2 weeks that they're home, they're sleeping on their mom's couch. Yeah. You know, like they don't have health insurance. They don't, what are they, you know, they've got nothing. They've got, and they've got this group to talk to, but these people aren't professionals. And so I just started like connecting people to therapists through these telehealth platforms and paying for it. I was like setting it up through Finding a Lost Voice. We were paying for people's therapy sessions, and the money ran out very fast. You know, the need for those services will always significantly outweigh probably any amount of money I could ever raise to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
But so we had to strategize a little bit more and figure out how we could do this like in a more strategic way to not run out of money immediately, and also give these people some kind of skin in the game, right? You know, like have them pay something, or at least maybe try to get set up on health insurance. You know, the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, if you will, like you can get health insurance for basically free if you don't really make that much money, you know? So like getting them connected to those resources as well, so then they could continue seeing a therapist and pay for it themselves, you know, and have like a small copay or something.
Yeah.
And so this all started at the end
providing
of
them a framework, like a
sure. The end of 2020, early 21. That's when we started doing this. That's where I started putting most of my focus. I'm still working in the treatment industry at this point, in a handful of different facets. Like I've made so many relationships all over the country at this point. So I'm like doing consulting for some treatment centers. I, if you could not tell, have always believed in treatment centers like providing very ethical and proper care to people. I don't believe there's any one size fits all to treatment. And a lot of treatment centers do treat it as such. And that's a very frustrating thing. And, you know, so I started working with this software company that does outcomes tracking. It's an outcomes tracking software program for treatment centers to track patient progress while they're in treatment, and then like a minimum of a year after they've left treatment.
I can imagine that's a very frustrating thing to be involved in, because just getting people to reply to you and just following up on it, especially like, you know, like people in recovery and addicts and stuff, that must be infuriating.
Getting them to like continue doing their assessments and answering these questions and stuff. Yeah. You'd be surprised, man. Because if you set it up properly, that was one of the rebuttals to these treatment centers onboarding the software is, oh, well, are we even going to get people to continue tracking this progress after they leave? Yeah. But if you get somebody to start doing it the day that they come into treatment, or even the day before they come into treatment, as like part of their assessment to coming into treatment, is you send them out this like questionnaire, and they're doing it throughout their treatment stay, and it becomes a part of their recovery process.
Interesting.
Then it's kind of second nature to them when they leave treatment. It's now a part of their treatment journey. So, so they do, you know, like, I mean, it's a data collection company, right? So we have the data on all of it. So like the data that we've been able to pull from some of these treatment centers is that we see that, like, you know, post-discharge, like 90 days to like 6 months, like a good like 60% of clientele are still doing the assessments.
That's excellent.
And then it's like after 6 months, once you get to like 9 months to a year, then there's like significant drop off. It drops into like maybe the 20%, you know, are still doing it at that point.
Right.
But even 90 days post discharge is valuable information to gather, to know like, where is the drop off point? Where are these people finding themselves relapsing or having a hospitalization, or, you know, like craving, you know? And so it gives the treatment center an idea of like how they can continue to check in with these people. And it's very easy for somebody to stay sober when they're in a nice cushy fucking treatment center getting fed 3 meals a day and have a nice bed to sleep in, and they can watch Netflix, and all they have to do is sit in these groups with a bunch of other fucking jerk offs and talk about themselves, you know?
Want to hear about life.
Exactly. And you know, but once you leave and life becomes lifey again, and you got your job and you got your family who doesn't understand addiction and mental health, so like they're constantly testing you, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Kind of goes back to that analogy I said, if you don't have the something in between the salt and the pepper, like those things are going to bother you enough to make you go and use drugs and alcohol to numb or self-medicate.
Yeah.
And so yeah, anyway, that's the sort of work I started doing. And so really today, like finding a lost voice, we have helped, you know, we have paid for, I think it was like the numbers, a little over 1,600 therapy sessions for people.
Wow.
And, you know, like hundreds of people. There's like a wait list of people now because the ebbs and flows of the finances, right? It's like I said, you can only bring in so much money.
Sure.
To be able to do this.
That's a never ending battle trying to figure
never
out.
Ending.
Yeah.
Never ending. I mean, unless we just like meet somebody or some group of people that is just like, here is millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, it'll be a never ending battle. I think the hardest part about running the foundation is every time I try to do some sort of fundraiser or like marketing for it. Like I've got a good friend, AJ, and he's in this awesome band, and they do like these awesome music videos, and he's had me be a part of a couple of them because he's very passionate about mental health too. And we have set them up to sort of be fundraisers for Finding a Lost Voice. And honestly, what ends up happening is I get more people asking for help than I do donations.
Yeah.
You know, so now it's just like filling that funnel even wider of people that need the help because they see the music video, but not anybody that really has money to help fundraise it, you know? And, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, like I said.
Well, you know, if you're watching this, our man here needs funds.
Finding a Lost Voice.
Yeah.
Finding a Lost Voice.
And there's no better cause. There's no better cause. Clearly, there's no better cause. So, like as of the present day, anything else going on with what things you're doing, or is it all Finding a Lost Voice?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm so passionate about the mental health and the foundation and stuff. I mean, like, you know, that sounds like enough, right? That sounds like enough for me to be doing that would take up all of my time. And like, when I was talking earlier about like having the lived experience of somebody that's probably like 60 years old, but being in my, you know, early 30s, like, I've got 2 children, and a beautiful wife. You know, my son is 7 years old. My daughter is 2. My son's test scores just went up 200%. I found out 2 days ago, and you know, like, okay, that's awesome, man. Like, kid's fucking killing it. Wicked smart, and like, so much fun to be around. Such like just an independent, like, awesome child, and he's just into the coolest stuff. My daughter is a complete psychopath. She's 2 years old. She is like completely fearless, like climbing on everything, really combative. Her favorite word is no. And, you know, eats like a madhouse, just eats like everything in sight. But she's a genius too. Like, I could already tell like that she's very special, man. So is my son, but this girl is like, she's going to be famous or something. And
that's the truth of it. Look, you know, you've made a success of your life. You turned it around, and the fruit is born in your family, and the fact that you're happy, you know, walking around today. And thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. It was a ride, man, and like, I'm genuinely very grateful I got to meet you. And
likewise.
And if there's any way we can help, or if there's any way that we can raise more awareness for Finding a Lost Voice, we absolutely will. And there's no better cause in the world, and it's something that's dear to my heart. And I applaud you. You're a hero. Thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice one. Peace.
Take a better scene. It's what we're doing. Come and check it out. It's what we're all